Welcome back, everybody, to Aaron's Opinion. We are very, very honored to be joined by another great friend of ours from Tunisia. Another great friend, I believe Radwan Mednini sent me this person and said, "You really need to have a conversation with Basna." Before you developed your page and your concept of Basma Radio, we need to know who you are, Basma. So, who is Basma? Why don't you start by telling, your foundation, the story of your life and things like that, how you became blind, and sort of walk through your life journey, your spiritual journey, until you got into the radio business and things like that. So, give us all the details. Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to say hello to all the persons who are following this wonderful program. And I would like to thank the person who made it possible, Radwan Mednini. And he gave me the opportunity to know Aaron. And I hope I can get the opportunity to know more about all the persons you are inviting. Who is Basma? You said I'm from Tunisia, yes. And I'm a Tunisian woman, a mother of two daughters, and I have a visual impairment. Uh, I was not born blind. I have retinitis pigmentosa, which is daily giving me the opportunity of, in a way, discovering how things disappear, but all my hope will never stop. Because I started studying with very thick glasses, and of course, we know bullying around that. This gave me the opportunity to devote most of my time to reading, and this gave me the opportunity also to know so many things through books and to discover different cultures and civilizations, though I was so young when other maybe girls were interested in other matters. And I studied English literature, and I went to Sterling University to study science of education, media, and modern civilization. Part of my studies were in Britain, but the majority was in Tunisia, in the University of Manouba, Tunis, where I got an MA and I started teaching English for about 9 years in the deep south of Tunisia, a region in which there was everything different from the capital because I was born in the capital, Tunis, and I have always spent my time in the capital or in France because my father used to work there for about 20 years. So when I went to the south of Tunisia, I discovered in a way another part which I didn't see, though I was not blind at that time. I discovered poverty, I discovered need, but I discovered willingness and strength and perseverance and a great desire to change a miserable situation. And from my students, whom I was supposed to teach English, I learned so many things. And up to now, I'm so proud of my friends now, my former students who became teachers, who became doctors, and very important, holding very important positions in the society. In a way, this was somehow a preparation for me to accept my new situation, becoming blind, getting the information that you have retinitis pigmentosa. And when I Google retinitis pigmentosa, you would begin by having the terrible definition: incurable disease leading to a progressive loss of sight. It is incurable. And this was a great shock for me, knowing that I was about to lose my sight. I was married. I had one daughter who is now 28. And when I got my second daughter, I almost finished by losing all my sight. And this was also another terrible shock for me because everything has changed uh, terribly, and things which I used to have with great easiness became so difficult and impossible for me. I mean, looking after my baby, because I'm not used to being blind. It means also getting to health services, continuing to teach English. So everything changed, and I was not prepared for that. And that's why uh, later I decided to have the radio show you talked about. When I lost my sight, and this was gradually, and up to now, I still keep some sort of perception and not vision. I was in the UAE, so I was not in Tunisia. I was abroad. I had two babies, and I had to go on teaching. And this was not something easy for me at all. Then I came back to Tunisia, and to get a salary, I had to continue teaching at least for 3 months. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a single cent if I get retired at that time. So, what I used to do, and because most of English is based on listening, I had in a way to learn some of the uh, lessons by heart and make as if I was reading the text from a book. It was not really something of simulation, but it was an experience of trying to keep on teaching, though I didn't have a vision of the alphabet. And I managed it by the end to finish my 120 days. And right now, I'm proud if I can still get 40% of my salary. It is because of the hard work I made at that time. It wasn't easy to handle a classroom with more than 30 students, trying to remember the names and asking them not to change their seats. And I told them, do not change the seats so that I can remember your names easily. But this was not really true. It was because I couldn't manage to see the features of their faces, and I couldn't really manage to see them.
Right, right. Well, Basma, I mean, that's a really a beautiful introduction, and I think that I've spoken, and I know that I've spoken to many other people around the world who have, RP, and this is very, very difficult for all people who, lose their vision, older when they're older. It's very, very traumatic, and especially with RP, it's especially complicated. But the point is that you overcame this, and that's, the point that's really worth celebrating and highlighting is that you overcame it and just went about your business as a successful blind person who is a teacher. And then because I really want you to dig into your radio show. Um, where did you get the idea for the radio show? How does the radio show work? Where can people listen? And then I want you to talk about all of the work that you do for women, civil rights, disability activism. I really want you to break down all those ingredients, and then we'll ask follow up questions from there.
Thank you so much for bringing the light of hope again to my life. And that's the point I would like to talk about indeed. It is said what cannot be cured must be endured. And sometimes, from what happens to us, we can manage to change things. What I have experienced with the loss of sight is in a way, some sort of test for my determination and how I can really bring some change to this world with my visual impairment. And in a way, the declic or the change happened when I stopped crying over my lost sight and asking myself what I could do without my eyes. And I discovered that I could do so many things. I joined IPSAR Association. When I went to the association, it was to see the president, the head of the association, had RP. And he told me something so nice. Uh, the day you forget about your RP and remember that you handle three languages, Arabic, French, and English, and you have an experience as a teacher, and you have two wonderful girls, and you have a whole future which is maybe going to be brighter than the one before, you are welcome to IPSAR Association. And this was really the first step towards the civil society. I joined the association as a member, and then I said, I understand things related to education, so I would like to be at the head of the Committee of Education and Women. Education, because for students with visual impairment in Tunisia, they only have just one section of studies, the section of arts, I mean literature and things related. And the paradox is that with these studies, students with visual impairment and even those who do not have visual impairment find it difficult to get jobs. So I said, I'm going to work on education and try to bring some sort of change, because students with visual impairment can study music, they can study technology, they can even study mathematics. And we know the famous mathematicians who brought, in a way, great changes to the world. Uh, Léonard Relais, Louis Antoine, they really made great job for mathematics, and they were blind. So why not have mathematics for Tunisian students? Also, I paid much attention to the situation of women, because being a woman, whether we like it or not, and I think that this can be shared in many other parts of the world, even when you have disability, you are underprivileged by comparison to men who have disability. And especially when it comes to visual impairment, we know that visually impaired persons rely much on technology. And since we do not study as visually impaired persons, we do not study technology related to visual impairment in schools, etc., the space of sharing is rather in public spaces, I mean cafes, etc. And in our traditional conservative society, not all women can go for those spaces of sharing. So I felt that in a way, there was some sort of extra dimension of discrimination against women. And that's why I created within the society, the association, the Committee for Women and Girls, trying to bring all these specificities related to needs of women, essentially those related to health services. For example, for women with visual impairment in Tunisia, if you make a test of pregnancy, you cannot read it yourself. You need to rely on someone else to do that for you. And this, of course, uh, is in a way not respecting the privacy of the woman. Also, when it comes to echography for babies, this is not also possible to discover for both parents, but especially for women. But I managed it through a friend of mine in France to know that he had an experience with the 3D technology to manage to have echography, which tries in a way to reflect the baby for the parents. And I like that. So I come back to what I am doing in IPSAR Association. And let me first begin by telling you and all the listeners about IPSAR Association. It is an association for culture and leisure of persons with visual impairment. And I joined it essentially for that, because when I started losing my sight, I started losing reading, I started losing going to the cinema, to the theater, following all artistic activities. And I couldn't really enjoy my life because of that. So when I joined the association, uh, we worked on creating something new for the blind. And it was the handy music. an international festival for blind musicians, which was founded in the 3rd of December 2015 on the celebration of the International Day for Disability. And in Hindi music and in that festival, which is something which happens for the first time in Tunisia, we met together blind musicians and from many parts of the world, from Tunisia, from Morocco, from Libya, Algeria, Palestine, Belgium, France, Spain, uh, also from Germany lately. So many countries joined us from Iraq, from Kuwait. Most of them are Arab countries, but we are very open to all countries. And this is an invitation for all the persons who have talents in music to join the festival. So this was an opportunity for me to translate for all our friends who did not speak Arabic, because most Tunisians use French or Arabic. So since we had some guests from Germany, from Spain, from Iran, I had also to ensure the translation in English. In the festival, we tried to bring into light blind musicians. There are very famous blind Arab musicians like Sheikh Imam, a very engaged poet, and he, in a way, revolutionized the music in the Arab world. And also about Said Makkawi, we had also Andrea Bocelli, Ray Charles, and the last edition was for Helen Keller. And on the last edition, we also had a conference about the rights of women with disability. And we brought all these women from the different countries which participated to speak about the situation of women with disability in the different countries. IPSAR Association is also well known for bringing possible for the first time in Tunisia and in Africa, in the Arab world too, the Braille voting. Since 2014, in IPSAR Association, we ensure the Braille voting all over the country when it comes to elections. And this, in a way, gives some sort of empowerment for blind persons in Tunisia because they can vote by themselves. In IPSAR Association also, there is a great work which is done on culture, and we joined, for example, the ABC, the Accessible Books Consortium, with the technique of EPUB 3, in which there wasn't a very big number of Arabic books, and now we managed to add about 170 titles to ABC Consortium. And we are always open to all, in a way, experience which can improve access to information for persons with visual impairment. Lately, we also created a committee which handles technological matters, essentially as far as access to information is related. And we are trying to raise awareness about the importance of using W3C criteria to make the websites of ministries and different important organizations accessible. So we are, in a way, with the association, trying to make visual impairment as visible as possible. And this, of course, with the help of all the persons who are working at the association. And this is, in a way, gave us some sort of visibility, and we are more than often asked to bring our point of view on how we see culture and how we can improve, in a way, access to information as far as persons with visual impairment are concerned. And also, when I speak about Tunisia, we can also speak about the Holy Quran in Braille because the majority of the population is Muslim. And in IPSAR Association, we also managed to have some copies of the Holy Quran in Braille, a part of it. So, in a way, we are trying to give a hand to other associations also to make disability in general visible, but much of the work related to visual impairment in Tunisia is done by IPSAR Association. And the fact of joining such an association made me always full of dreams because I can dream and I can then speak about how we can bring that dream come true. Uh, the opportunity of joining also the civil society uh, showed me in a way that there is much work which is done in the society, but which is not reflected in the media. And because I had before studied media, I didn't give it any importance. I was asking myself, why would they teach students of English media? And the answer, I got it after having my visual impairment. I said, now that I have all this information about these wonderful persons with disability and these wonderful ladies who are making great change in the society, it is an opportunity to give them a voice. And that's how I joined Radio Amal. Amal in Arabic means home, hope, sorry. Uh, and hope, the message in itself is so important. So I was presenting a project which I coordinated with IPSAR Association, which is called LASM or a must in English. A must is about empowering 15 women and girls for a better participation in public life and politics. How to give a speech, how to move on a stage for persons with visual impairment, how to convince, how to write your arguments, how to write a petition, etc. So all this was part of the program which I was coordinating. When I presented the program in front of a big audience, uh, the director of Radio Amal was there, and she came to me and she told me, "You wonderful lady, you know so many things, and we would like you to join our team at the radio." Let me tell you about Radio Amal. Uh, Amal Radio was also founded on the 3rd of December 2015. And it is the first radio in the Arab world and in Africa which advocates the rights of persons with disability and in which we have persons with disability working with their own programs. In Radio Amal, we had at least 5 persons with visual impairment who worked there and who are still working there. And this is an opportunity to tell persons around us that it is possible to have a visual impairment and to have your own program. I come to my program. My name is Basna, which means smile in Arabic, and the radio is called Amal, which means hope. So I decided to call my program A Smile of Hope. And not because it is something personal, but because the image of disability is so terrible. It's an image of charity, of persons who are poor, who are not educated, who do not know how to ask for their rights. And it is really something so miserable, though the truth is totally different. Maybe we can be poor, but we are determined to change the situation, etc. So the radio show started on the 15th of November 2017 for about now 5 years. And every week I am supposed to have guests. They can be women, they can be persons with disability, especially with visual impairment, because I know so many of them. and they speak about their experiences and not just telling things about themselves. For example, if I tell you about yesterday's my last show, it invited a student, and a student who is totally blind, who has a wonderful voice, who is studying English, and who is dreaming of discovering the world, going abroad, studying in other countries, and bringing all these experiences to Tunisia to improve the situation of uh, persons with visual impairment, especially. And he has a wonderful voice, and there was a mixture of singing and rights advocating. And this is because of the 15th of October, of course, the International Day for the White Cane. So it was an opportunity to bring him to speak about that. Also, the when I bring, for example, women, many of them can have disability. For example, they can be at the head of associations, but they are visually impaired, or they have physical disability, etc. So this, in a way, gave me the opportunity to know more than at least 300 persons with disability who managed to bring much change to society. And what is special about the program is that because in my show and in the radio in general, we bring persons with disability, other radios now start speaking about disability. And this was one of my objectives from the very beginning, giving visibility to persons with disability, especially with visual impairment. But still, I realized that sometimes the deaf do not really have voice in the media. And that's why whenever I spoke about events related to the deaf, I would bring, and they are all volunteers, and I am myself a volunteer at the radio. I would bring someone to translate in the language of signs so that they can get the information. And that's why at the very beginning, it was some sort of challenge. And I was trying to find the suitable guests for each program. But right now, uh, I can tell you that sometimes I have to make a great selection because I may be contacted by, let me say, 4 or 5 persons to be part of my radio show, which only lasts for 1 hour and a half, and in which I am supposed also to have songs in between. So, in general, we have 10 to 12 minutes of talk, and then a song, and we move back to another topic. This, in a way, made me some sort, gave me some sort of visibility uh, in the civil society and also in the Tunisian society. And now I can tell you that at least whenever there is a room for defending rights of persons with disability or rights of women, I would always find myself part of the scene. And through what I am doing, I wanted to send the message that I can be a visually impaired woman, but I can bring much change to the world around me. And this is what is happening. Certainly, I'm proud of being visually impaired, but let it be a detail. And you can find so many other things in which I can bring help if you don't just corner me in the poor, miserable woman with visual impairment.
I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing. 1,000%, 1000%. Merci, merci, merci beaucoup. The work that you are doing is so important, and just that whole picture that you painted about all the experiences along the way, so good. Um, I was just speaking with a Qatari person before you came into the studio, and this work that you're doing, especially with your radio show, it will really, really help to educate more and more people who are sighted or who do not have a disability about the ability that we all have as blind people, and to maybe, hopefully, God willing, change the perception that society around the world has about blind people. So I just cannot thank you enough. I mean, this is really, 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 really fascinating to me. So, what can you tell me as far as Radio Amal? You know, what can you tell me about the way the station, like, how does the station work? Is there a website? Are they on different listening platforms? What have you noticed about your audience? Do you have international listeners and guests? I mean, what can you tell me about your analytical success that you've had so far?
Radio Amal is essentially based on voluntary work. In Tunisia, we have what we call local media, media of proximity. You have associative radios which work on specific topics on specific regions. The advantage of Radio Amal is that it handled in a way a topic which was not dealt before. And that's why we have a big audience of persons with disability, but not only of persons with disability, of all Tunisians. And why of all Tunisians? Because although it only broadcasts the program on four governorates only, what we call the big Tunis, it can reach people even outside our frontiers, simply because on the Facebook page you can find all the videos of the radio.
Ah, indeed,
Right?
that's how I pictured it. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You simply write radio, capital M, capital L, and you will get Radio ML. And why ML? Certainly ML because it is some sort of ML in Arabic, but it is also to say free media, media libre, ML.
We,
And it is indeed giving us, at least personally, the opportunity to bring the voice of all these persons, but you don't really have restrictions on what you are saying. Being the producer and presenter of my own program, I always tell them my slogan is simply going to be free and responsible. I try, yeah,
very, very cute. Very good. Free and responsible.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
very good.
It's not easy just to get the mic and say what you would like to say. For me,
Oh, I
it's a
know.
mission. It's a great job. And the paradox is that before I used to have about, let me say, 100 students or 200. But now I'm saying, oh no, you don't need to cry because you are no longer a teacher. Now the audience is much bigger, much bigger. And the responsibility is also much bigger. And that's why for the radio, we don't really have a very high technique
Mm-hmm.
and equipment, which is very sophisticated. No,
You don't need sophistication. You don't need sophisticated equipment.
yeah.
Right.
But if you you know whom we are competing, you are going to say, oh no, you need all these sophisticated things to
Right.
make a great shows. But in Radio ML, the persons who come to the radio, they say, oh, it's so cute, it's wonderful, it's just that, and you are doing all that great work. And what we lately did is bringing uh, the ML, letter M, capital M and capital L, we are bringing them in some sort so that when you put your hands on them, you can read the two letters and you can feel the two letters. It's not in Braille, but you can feel them on the when you touch them with your hands, simply
Mm-hmm.
to give the information to the blind persons who come to the radio. So on the wall we have the letters of the radio and the frequency of the radio, simply so that also blind persons who visit us can can see the slogan of the radio and can feel it with their hands, etc. And they like it so much. As I told you, it's not really great equipment, but there is much love which is shared by the different members of the radio. Let me say that the team is not more than maximum 15 persons, but we are bringing much change to the Tunisian society. And my hope is that we can bring a change to the mentality and to how we see disability and especially visual impairment in Tunisia. And I feel that the role of the media is very important because we experienced having a minister who was blind, the Minister of Culture, who was for some moment uh, minister, but then he did not stay in the government. And when he got this position, all and many of the artists who were supposed, in a way, to change the world through their works of art, they were saying, it's a pity we are going to paint for a minister who is blind. He will not see our paintings. It's a pity we are going to do this and that for a minister who is blind. And by the end, he did not stay for long, but I followed all the comments which were written on him. And I said that the media have the role to change this world. And maybe it was a bit early for Tunisia to have a minister as to have a blind person as a minister, though he has a doctorate, a PhD, and he is so cultivated and he knows the Ministry of Culture, and he was one of my guests before becoming a minister. And after giving up the ministry, he came back to my radio show and he told me, you will answer me the right questions. That's why I accepted your invitation. Though he did not accept other invitations in other big radios. And I respect him for that. So that's why I say that the role of media is great. And I like it when you tell me we don't need sophisticated equipment. This will give me the chance to work with the equipment we are having at the radio. But sometimes, you know what is happening, for example, to have my video and all the videos on the radio, we are supposed to have someone else with a mobile phone simply uh, trying to get the filming the video, no more. This is how we are getting our videos on the page Facebook
Mm-hmm.
of the radio. So that's why I say we don't really have much equipment, but there is a great belief that with our radio we can contribute to changing the situation of persons with disability. And lately other radios started having similar experience by speaking about disability in their programs. And I can tell you that the majority of the persons I see in other radios uh, were guests of Basmat Amal, or A Smile of Hope, my program. My program, which when I started it, I didn't think it would give me the chance of having all this visibility, because I went, for example, to the World Football World Cup in Russia in
Wow.
2018 because I was chosen among what they call the team of champions. Uh, they chose 15 persons who are activists in the civil society and who brought some change. And they contacted the radio because they were looking for a blind person who is having a program and doing that as a voluntary work. And when they discovered that every week, every Wednesday morning, I took the bus from near home and go to another part which is far from my home and wait for someone from the radio to come and pick me to the radio and then do that back. They gave me the chance to visit the World Cup and in Russia, the Football World Cup, and to be there in the match between Belgium and Tunisia. Of course, we did not win, but it's not a problem. This travel gave me the opportunity to discover so many things which made life possible and easy for persons with visual impairment in other countries, but not in Tunisia. For example, the traffic lights, which were with the audio, and uh, so many things with which helped me in a way to move in Moscow without great difficulty because the infrastructure was much better. Also, I had the opportunity to represent Tunisia in Doha, Qatar, with a congress, an international congress, which was held in Doha, Qatar, for blind women. And I had the opportunity to speak about my radio show, Basmat Amal, as an example of a successful radio program presented and produced by a blind woman. I also had the opportunity to visit Morocco and take part in a way. There was some sort of analysis for the first guide of sexual violence against women with disability, and I had the chance to represent Tunisia and be there when this guide was presented. And I had the wonderful chance of meeting another great lady who is called Grace, and she is responsible in a very big organization in the States, I think Women Enabled International. She is a lawyer, she has RP, and she lost her sight, and she is now devoting all her time to working on the improvement of rights of women with disability, and especially with visual impairment.
Fabulous. That's really, really, really well done. Back to Radio Amal, Radio ML. So you say that someone, when you're hosting your show, when you're interviewing someone, you're saying that another volunteer basically records, creates a video, of you interviewing the person, if I'm understanding this right. So then basically, do you go live on the Facebook page of Radio ML when you hold your shows and do your interviews? Do you turn that into a live stream on the Facebook page?
Yeah, exactly. We turn it as a
Perfect.
live stream on the page of Radio Amal, and this gives us great visibility.
Perfect. So what day and time do you hold your shows in Tunisia? Because I certainly want to experience this and see the show, and I would love to go to your Facebook page and watch one of the episodes. So where would I go to find this information? And generally speaking, when do you go live on the page?
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let me say that maybe it's going to be by quarter to 11 a.m. in Tunisia. And of course, you have to take 5 hours because we have a difference of 5 hours. It is
Right.
maybe now, yes, right now it is about 6 p.m. in Tunisia, and it is 1 p.m. in New
Right.
York.
Yeah,
So you
here,
have to take that
yeah,
into
precisely.
consideration.
Right. Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, precisely where I am, midi 43. Midi 43.
Ah,
So, yes.
midi 43, c'est 17h43 en Tunisie.
17 là-bas. Oui.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, oui, je comprends. Okay, yeah, so you're right. Okay.
5:43 p.m.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you're 5 hours. Yeah, I understand that system. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're 5 hours ahead. So
yeah.
that is fine. Well, I will definitely be I mean, we will definitely be in touch over WhatsApp after the interview later today, but I certainly want to put you, in fact, I will put you in touch with a radio station, a global radio station that I'm connected with for you to share your story even further and also for you to be able to do some volunteering for a global radio station that has programming for people with disabilities all over the world. So I'm definitely here to help you get your message to more and more people. And I will certainly, although your show is early in the morning, I can certainly watch it on replay. You see, because with
Yeah,
Facebook Live, things are on replay. So still, I can still watch your show on a replay and definitely have an understanding of how you approach the concept of interviewing. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, do
Uh,
you mostly interview in French or Arabic or English, or does it all depend?
oh, it is in Arabic, but lately we had a very nice experience of a 10-day training with a, a lady called Sharon Josephson from Utah. She is a journalist. She came to Tunisia with her husband, who is in marketing, and they gave us a training, a 10-day training on how to give more visibility to the radio without spending a single penny. I mean, tips on how we can improve uh, uh, technical things. And so it was a great experience. They showed the radio participants so many things. Of course, I couldn't follow everything because of
Sure.
my visual impairment, but she liked the experience that we do not only speak about the rights of persons with disability, and especially visual impairment are always there. And I meant to be there simply to ask questions to related on how I can have access to different things with my visual impairment. And in a way, what one of the things she told us was just before beginning the show, you can come, for example, to your Facebook, which is my personal Facebook, and say, you don't forget to join me on my
Exactly.
show at 10:30. And at that moment, the 100 persons who were on my Facebook profile followed on the radio. And this was because I could see how this happened, of course, and you know how this happens on Facebook. You can go back and see how things happen and how you can increase the number of the audience. And I felt that this really did not cost a single penny,
Right.
but
Right.
it gave us more visibility. And I know so many persons who are my friends on Facebook, and they
Mm-hmm.
are now telling me about details about my radio show. So, yeah.
You'd be surprised at that type of thing. The power behind that software is that people who would never admit to actually loving what you do and loving you and loving your show, people aren't going to admit that they love you and love your show and your interviews, but they'll secretly be supporting you behind the scenes, and you'd be very surprised how quickly numbers can skyrocket when you just send your page to one person and then they share it with their friends. And by the way, the friends that you
Uh-huh.
have on Facebook are the people that are more likely to respond to your show. Friends are always better than public. You know, the public doesn't know you, but your friends do. So that's a very important fact. I want to ask you a serious question has popped up on the screen here, or popped up in my mind, in my ear as a host. I need to know something. You've had a lot of serious. I'm sure that you've had a lot of very emotional conversations on your show, a lot of serious conversations. But overall, what was the most challenging and the most difficult conversation you have had to go through on your show? And how did that conversation add to your smile and your hope that you have?
Thank you so much for this question. Um, uh, the great challenge for me was to have a conversation with a wonderful lady who is totally blind, totally deaf, but she could read on my lips. And I had to make some sort of training with her for months, 1 or 2 months. Every time I meet her, I try to articulate correctly so that she can read on my lips and then answer my questions. And I sent her some questions written, and she can speak, but she does not hear at all, but she can speak. So the challenge was that I couldn't see her and she could not hear me. And by the end, this was the greatest challenge I had on the radio. And it was so successful. And believe me, a colleague of mine, she was crying. She told me, when I see what you are both doing, I consider that I am doing nothing by comparison to that great job. And by the end of the session of the show, I I went with her. She took her car, and we went back home together. And she did not hear a single word of what I was saying, and I couldn't see her at all. But still, this was a great challenge. Uh, this wonderful lady wanted to say thank you to her mom, and it was on the Mother's Day. And she told me, I really would like to say thank you to my mom, who made a great job with me, but I cannot do that. And I told her this will be possible on the radio. And we had some training, honestly, for some time. But by the end, I managed to have the challenge of interviewing a deaf woman uh, with my visual impairment. And I am so proud of that experience, because now that lady is speaking about the rights of the deaf, and she is moving from one radio to another.
That is really cool. And and that's why we're talk show hosts. It's to be able to share that magic and that strength within that conversation. To be able to share that with the world. I mean, that's so sweet and so interesting and so touching. That makes it all worthwhile, as we say in English. That's why we do what we do as educators or talk show hosts. That's so beautiful. I just have about another 10 minutes. I mean, you did. I never thought. Well, actually, I have less than 10 minutes, actually, which is beautiful. I had a feeling you would do a magnificent conversation, and I never thought that I'd have to struggle to get you to talk like some other guests over the years. I knew that you would just start talking, and I knew that I would not speak much at all, which makes it a perfect episode for me because it's my job to give you a voice. So I'm sure that you have some questions, some really hard questions that you would love to ask Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion. What do you really want to know about Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion?
Oh, that's a great challenge for me. If I would like to know something, is where do you find all this energy to look for all the persons around the world and to reach Tunisia? How magic what you are doing? What is the magic behind that? How can you reach all these persons?
Well, it's not magic. I wouldn't say it's magical. Unless you go to the island of dreams, Jarba, and you talk to a great friend, Radwan Mednini. You see, it's not me who does these things. The magic, don't ask me that. Ask Radwan. He's the guy from Jarba that never runs out of energy. He's the one that keeps telling me to talk to all these people. He tells me to talk to so many people. I don't know how he has time to talk. He just keeps giving me people. I don't know. Don't ask me. Ask Radwan Mendini from go over to Jarba and talk to that Radwan guy. He'll definitely answer that question. But thank you from the bottom of my heart to our great buddy Radwan for having more energy and time than I would ever have to be able to bless me with so many great guests like you and a man from Qatar that I just spoke to a few minutes ago
Sure.
before you came in. So the answer is the true intellectual answer is we have to surround ourselves by great friends like Radwan and many others, and they in turn help us to be connected with other great friends like Basma. So that's how it's about building rapport slowly but surely. It's about building rapport with the world one step at a time. That's actually how it works.
That's great. My other question is, how do you find this community of all of us persons with visual impairment? Do you think that we have enough visibility, our work, our arts, our talents? Do you think that there is enough visibility for all the things we are doing from the experience of the persons you interviewed, maybe?
No, I don't think there's enough visibility. And I don't think there's enough visibility only because that I keep seeing each week or month, I keep seeing that I have more subscribers and more interest from other countries. And that's great. That's wonderful on one hand. On the other, it shows me how severe the problem and challenge of vision loss is. And it's becoming more and more clear to me how more and more people are blind and how more and more of those people need to be able to share their story in order to educate others. So I find that the community of blind people is growing and is a community that needs a lot of help and a lot of support, as you well know, from all over the world, not just in Tunisia, but many countries. We have listeners all over the world on all the continents. And, there's a lot of people who need this information. So, on one hand, that concerns me. On the other, I'm pleased to do that. I'm pleased to educate the world, provided that they are willing to be educated and willing to listen. And I think that since numbers are going up, I think it shows how important and how needed what we do is. So, that's what I have found.
Wow, that's wonderful. You can rely on me, my friend. I will give you so many contacts of persons with visual impairment in Tunisia who are poets, who are singers, and who speak perfect English. This is something I can do at least. And I really invite all persons who follow your wonderful show to come together and to try to think in a way all together about how we really can together improve our situation, no matter how difficult life is, because certainly situation is different from one country to another, but our needs in a way and our dreams are very similar. So
Absolutely.
let's try to make this world more joyful for all of us. Let's not in a way lose hope, and I keep faith that together we can really do very wonderful things. Martin Luther King says, I have a dream. uh, I would say maybe together we can achieve the dream. And I would like to tell you thank you so much, because with our conversation today, I feel that part of my dream has come true.
I couldn't ask for a better ending, and you are forever welcome. You're so sweet, and it's so touching. That's just so cute, and you are so welcome. If someone wants to get in touch with Basma, or if someone wants to get in touch with your radio station, where do they go?
Well, with Basma, you can go on Facebook if you like Facebook. It is spelled BESMAESSOUSSI. Basma SUC. If not, on WhatsApp, if you would like to give the link, can you just put the link with the show if you wish? Or I can just give my WhatsApp number. It is 00216 767078.
Wonderful.
And also, so this is on WhatsApp, on Telegram. And also, there is a possibility to get in touch with the radio. You simply write radio, capital M, capital L, and the director of the radio is a perfect speaker of English, and she had training on with the U.S. Embassy on how to have in a way an idea of startup. It was for her for community solution problems, And she had the idea of having this radio as an example of tolerance. And she spent some training, about 4 months, in the States to see the experience of other radios. And she is a wonderful lady. She's an engineer, and she is doing a great work with Radio ML. And though she does not have a visual impairment, or any disability, but she is a wonderful lady who is doing a great job for persons with disability. And maybe if I were Aaron, I wouldn't miss the opportunity of interviewing her and the great work she is doing.
Well, let's say, Basma, thank you so much. You are forever welcome here on Aaron's Opinion. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. That's where I would like to end. That was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Keep broadcasting over there in Tunisia. Keep doing your great work. And as we say here on Aaron's Opinion, thank you so much, everyone. And help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.